Hi again, my stitching friends. So I spent quite a lot of time now showing you different embroidery stitches and techniques, but we never really looked at what to do with them after that. So I thought in this video we would have a look at how you could be more creative with your embroidery and what you can use it for, what you can turn it into. We've all got limited wall space. There's only so many things we can hang on a wall, so what else can we do with it? So I've pulled out lots of pieces from my collection and we're going to have a little look through and see if we can get inspired to make something really creative out of our stitching. So when I was looking through my collection, I was actually quite surprised at how many different types of finishings that I had got in there, and also noticed that they kind of fit into categories. So I put them together in groups that I think will make a bit more sense, so that you can see how you can develop your own work. So I want to look initially, even though I said we don't necessarily want to put things on the wall all the time, but I do want to just show you a few ways that you can do that, but maybe slightly different to what you might normally think about. So you can just frame it in the frame that you stitch it in. So these are just normal ring frames that you would stitch your work in, and you can use these to finish off your pieces quite nicely. That means you only need one frame to work it in and one to display it in, which is quite nice. These are a couple of small round ones that we've got here, and then all you need to do is just cut a circle around the edge from your piece of work, run a gathering stitch in it and pull the gathering stitch up. It's a really simple way of just finishing your work off and making it look like it's a completed piece. So there's another one here. This is our silk shaded pansy that you may be familiar with, and I've done the same here. So I've just cut a little bit excess fabric around the edge of the frame and pulled it tight, and then you can just hang a ribbon from the top which you can display it with. So really nice, quick, effective way of finishing a piece very simply. So moving on from a normal frame that you would work your embroidery in, we've got these flexi frames which you've probably seen before as well. Now we've got different shapes and sizes, so these are specifically for displaying your embroidery in as opposed to working it in, so they're not quite as tight as a normal ring frame can be. So you want your fabric nice and taut when you're stitching. These are more for display purposes, so you'll find it a bit harder to actually work your embroidery in. But I just want to show you the different shapes and sizes. So circular ones, oval ones, and then we've got these interesting shapes here, a long one and a slightly squarer one as well. So different opportunities to make that relevant to the thing that you're stitching. And again, you do them in the same way, so you can just cut a circle, work a gathering stitch and pull it up, and then you can put a backing as well. I haven't got backings on any of these ones, I don't think, but you can work a backing as well just to finish that off. So a really inexpensive but really good looking way to finish off your embroideries to hang on a wall. So I just wanted to show you one more that you can hang on a wall as well, but that doesn't involve a frame. That noise this one makes. So this is my Saloria elephant. I stitched this in Portland in the US many years ago now. Hi to anyone if you're watching from Portland, I miss you all. And we did this lovely little elephant and everyone did their own version, but I've not framed this one. I've just mounted it around a board and it's sort of free hanging. Stop it jangling. So I've got a little cord that I've made on the top, and I've put some little coins on the bottom to give it the jingle jangle, but that literally is how I've stitched it, and I've just finished off the edges, and I've put a backing on this one as well, so you can see I've gone right to the edge of the embroidery there, and I've put a backing on it as well so it can hang on the wall, and it's all finished and all nice, and it doesn't need any special frames. So we've had a look at things that go on the wall. Now my other favourite thing to do with my embroidery is to turn them into books. So I've got a few here. These are my little sketchbooks that I've made, and it sort of follows on from that the elephant piece where it's got a stiff backing so you can hang it on the wall, and then that stiff backing is made into a book cover. So here's a couple of simple ones that I've done. Now this one is on a piece of felt. So all I've done with the felt is cut the felt out square, and I've actually just stuck it onto the card. And then I make these little concertina books, which are dead easy to make. Just fold some paper up, stick them in the middle, and you've got your little book. And I've made a backing for it the same as the front, and just got a couple of ribbons to tie it. So really the simplest probably form of book that you can make, and because it's on the felt there's no finishing around the edge, I can just stick it on. So there's a really simple way of making a book. And then I've got another one here as well. So this one is finished around a board here. If I open it, just see the edge here, and again this has been stuck onto a board, and another concertina book with some different coloured paper in. So all I've done on the back is just another piece of card on the back. I haven't made a fabric backing for this one, I've just put a bit of card on the back. So just finishing it off on a board and sticking it on as a book cover. And then this is my poppy book. Now I do have a whole video on how I made this book from start to finish. So from collecting the poppy petals and making a die and dyeing my own threads right through the whole process of making this book. So if you want to see that and you haven't seen it yet, I'll put a little link up to that here. Do check that out because that was a lot of fun to do, and it shows you the entire process as well. So again, just around a board, covered a board with it, made another concertina book that's got some watercolour paper in it so I can do my little watercolour paintings, and then just a piece of card on the back. So they make really lovely book covers. So a really nice thing to do with your embroideries is to make them into soft finishings. So what do I mean by that? So cushions. This one's got a little bit scrunched up. It's come off the frame like that. That's the size it was on the frame. I've made this cushion myself, so I just made it to the size my embroidery was. You do need to allow, obviously, for the fabric around the side with this. So if you come too close to the centre, then you haven't got much fabric to make a cushion with, unless you start putting borders around it, which is absolutely fine. So I've made that. Give it a bit of a clean first. I've made that into a cushion just from the size it was on the, came off the frame. And I've got another one here. So this is a slightly bigger one, it's that way up. So this is my Mount Melick embroidery, and all in white. And I've made a white cord as well to go around the edge, which was something that we did on our apprenticeship when I did my training. We had to make the whole cushion and the cord as well. So that was a little practice piece. But they do make really beautiful soft furnishings. Do think about the technique that you use. If you were doing gold work or beads, obviously you've got some texture on there, and that can be quite rough and could get damaged, and it's not really comfortable to use for a cushion as well. So think about what you're actually stitching and make sure that it's secure enough for making into a cushion. I've also got some serviettes that I made. Now I made these for a project in the Victorian Albert Museum book, Embroidery A Maker's Guide, and wanted to make something that wasn't hanging on the wall, and just happened to lend itself really nicely to some napkins, and these are two blackwork designs. So again, something that could be used, something that can be washed, because it's a napkin, it's going to get used. So you need to think about that as well if you wanted to make something like this. But really nice, simple designs, nothing that's going to catch, easy to go in the washing machine, and would look great on your dining table. So another project I made for the same book is this little phone case here. This was inspired by a traditional piece from the V&A, and again make it into something that doesn't go on a wall. And I quite like the idea of making something traditional into something that's got quite a modern use. So I've made it into a phone case. It's got a little catch on it there. Oh, it's got two little catches on it. And then I've just lined the inside with a cotton fabric as well, and made a little flap for it. So you don't need much extra fabric for this as well, so this is great if you've got quite a small design and you didn't allow yourself quite enough fabric to do anything else with it, but makes a super little phone case. And again, quite a sturdy piece of embroidery. This is wool on a linen, so this is washable as well, but it's not going to catch on anything. Quite a practical thing and a very unique thing to have in your handbag. So talking of bags, here's a little bag. Now I have to confess that my mum made this for me. Thank you, Mum. So I did the stitching, she made it into the little bag for me, and this was a sample for a class I did when we went to India. So I took this with me, and we did stitch on some little handbags. So you can see it here. So it was worked on felt, so the embroidery is actually only up to the edge here, and she made it into a panel that fitted into a bag, and found a matching fabric inside, which was quite fun as well. So this one's got gold work on it, so it is quite delicate. I don't know how often I would use this, but it might be nice for a little evening bag or something. So even if your piece of fabric's not big enough, it's still easy to make it into something bigger by putting it on an edge. You can insert it, you can make a piece of patchwork piece out of it and insert that into a bigger patchwork. So you can get inventive with it and make it fit if it doesn't. Another kind of bag here, so I've got a little sweet bag. This was made for a class, so this actual fuchsia, this silk shaded fuchsia, was the project we did in the class, and just again to show what you could do with it rather than framing it, we made it into this little bag. So you need to allow a little bit of extra fabric for it, but this is quite a small cute one, and I made the same fabric on the back, and then I just put a green ribbon to tie up the bag. So would make great presents if you want to give somebody something special and you don't know what to make them. You can use your little samples up and make these little sweet bags, and they get a really unique gift. So we're on accessories. We've looked at bags, so you can also make little brooches. Now the best technique for making this sort of thing is stump work, because it's a three-dimensional technique. You can cut things out. So here's my little butterflies, that we have a video on these as well. So there's the butterfly as it's cut out from the fabric, and you can really do anything with it at this stage. You could add it onto a bookmark, you could make it into a piece of jewellery, so you could have a necklace out of it. But I've just put a brooch fastening on the back of this silver one, and it makes a really lovely accessory and a really beautiful present as well. So if you've got something that's three-dimensional, it's very easy to get a bit more creative with it and think, how can I display this? So just while I'm talking about stump work as well, something else you can do with it is I've made this little hoop, this little Christmas wreath, and this is the stump work. So the leaves have been cut out here, and I've made some beads in some different techniques, and then just tied it onto a hoop. So this is a normal embroidery hoop. I've just wrapped the outside in a red organza ribbon, tied a nice green ribbon on the top, and fastened my stitching to it. So really easy way, and really quite striking and unusual way of displaying a piece of stump work. So for the last category, these are things that have been designed specifically to be something. So I've had in my mind at the beginning the end result, and these ones are quite different. So I want to show you this one first. So this is my Venetian mask. So this was a piece from my apprenticeship. We had to do a creative gold work piece, so we'd learned all about the gold work techniques. So then it was, what can you do with the gold work, how can you make it different, and I just thought, what can I do that's really different with this, and I've made a mask to demonstrate for you, and it's got lots of lovely feathers, are a bit curled up. So this one really was creative, and it was quite difficult to get the mask shape. This is quite stiff, to cut the holes out and to finish off these corners was quite a difficult task. And you can see the gold work. I'll put it under the camera so you can see that a little bit more clearly. There we go. So here's the creative gold work part of the brief, and then making it into this mask was a little bit extra. So quite a complicated shape to do this. Took a little bit of working out, but if you just have it in your mind before you start what the end goal is, you can make some samples, you can try it out, and you can achieve something really spectacular. So I have been asked on occasion, how do I display something that I want to see both sides of? Now you might think, why would you want to see the back of your work? But there's a couple of instances where you might. So a technique such as shadow work, which is sort of a see-through technique, and you use the stitches behind and they come through the layers on the front. You might want to see the back of that. But I want to show you this piece here. So this is called Both Sides Alike for obvious reasons. So this is one piece of fabric and one piece of stitching, and this is the front. And this is the back. So this is the stitching on the back. This is the stitching on the front, so one piece of stitching. So obviously with this you would want to see both sides. Now this is would originally be a standard, a military standard, and it would be on a flag, so you would want to see both sides of the standard, because it's a freestanding flag that's carried in ceremonies and displayed, so you'd need to see both sides, and this is a sample of how we would make that. So you want to see both sides. If I just put that down for the camera, I'll show you how I've mounted that. So it's basically squashed between some mount board. So we've got 1, 2, 3 layers of board here stuck together, and then there's the same on the back, so there's 6 layers of mount board altogether for this one, and then this is stretched tightly between them and glued. Now it is quite difficult to keep this nice and tight, this fabric, so you have to sort of make sure it's well stuck before you stick the boards together, but I'll just show you the other side as well. So that's the front, and there's the 3 on the back. So you need to cut your 3 pieces the same and make sure that they all line up carefully. So it's quite a lot of accuracy needed in this. You need to measure quite carefully, or get someone to cut it for you who can measure it really nice and neatly. But it is a really nice way to mount your pieces together. I've just got a smaller one, and I can show you one as well. So this was another sample from the same technique. So there's the back, there's the front, and then just 2 pieces of card for this one because it's a smaller piece. Cut to the same size, and then you sandwich the fabric between it so you can see both sides. So I've got 2 pieces left to show you, and these ones are quite different from everything else. So this is the first one, and this was probably inspired more by the jar than it was about the embroidery. I've got a beautiful jar, what can I put in it? But so I put my butterflies in it. So you can see that. So I've got 3 butterflies. They're silk shaded ones. They've been cut out like we saw before with the brooches and with the Christmas wreath as well. And I've displayed it in this dome. So I'll show you another one up here as well, so you can see that more clearly. So I've made the butterflies individually, attached them by wires to the twig that's gone inside the jar, and you can display it and rotate it, and it looks really beautiful. And it will also protect your embroidery as well because it's covered and nobody can touch it. So a really unusual way of displaying it, but really beautiful. So the last piece that I want to show you is my Princess and the Pea bed. This is another apprentice piece that I made, and this is really taking your embroidery finishing to an extreme, I would say. So the technique was about box making, but it has got embroidery on it and in it as well. I'll just lift it up if I can. Let's give you a quick spin round. Oh, she's falling out. So got the princesses in her bed. There is a pea in there. So there we have her. We've got some embroidery all around the top here and down the bottom here as well. And some gold work on the back too, all the way back to the front. There we go. Put it down. But I'm not going to show you too much more of this. If you're really interested to see this, leave a comment below, and if we get enough comments and you really want to have a look around this properly, then we'll make another video of it, because there's really quite a lot in there to show you. So I hope you've enjoyed that and been inspired by some different ideas and different ways that you can finish off your embroidery creatively. I've really enjoyed going back through my collection and having a look at some of the pieces I've made. So if you've enjoyed it too, do give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. You can click the little bell for notifications so you don't miss any more of our videos, and do check out what else we've got. Another great one for you up here, and we will see you next time.